The commencement of every auspicious event should be with a prayer. Let's commence our program with a silent prayer. Dr. Liji Jacob, the Assistant Nodal Officer of IEDC SPC, is a strong pillar of our enterprise. I invite her for the welcome speech.
A very warm good afternoon to all of you. The guest of the day, Shri Shah Antony, respected teachers, and my dear students. It is a happy moment for our IDC, or we are starting off with our activities. As you all know, our IDC is still in its infant stage. We recently had our official inauguration, and this is a first event we are hosting under the auspices of IEDC. This event, an iTalk, is conducted as one of the events of IPL, that is Innovators Premier League, which is a prelude to IEDC Summit 2021. You know, an iTalk is a series of talk sessions led by an innovator and is designed to motivate the audience of innovation. We will be having many more events in connection with IPL, like challenges, boot camps, and others. And this iTalk is a first in the series. For today's sessions, we have with us the young innovator come entrepreneur, Shri Shah Antony. Robert is a CEO and co-founder of Synapse, a Kochi-based company that is recognized both under the Startup India program and Kerala Startup Mission. The company is on its way to be India's first comprehensive education loan platform to address the needs of learners. Using this platform, students can choose from product listings of nationalized banks and NBFCs from the comfort of their homes. He also served as the former Associate Vice President of Crow Farm, a Delhi-based agri-tech startup, where he was heading the sales team of the company till 2020. The company could achieve a turnover of 30 crores under his leadership during the 2020 financial year. Robert is an alumni of IIM Lucknow. He did his PG program in agri-based business management from IIM Lucknow. And on a more personal note, he is a former student of our college. I'm happy and very proud to introduce him as my student of BSc Biotechnology Botany program for the 2008-11 period. He is a very active and efficient personality and has many achievements to his credit. He, during his period in SB College, he served as secretary, president of Nature Club during his period. He was a member of the Team Excellence, and again, he was one of the SB luminaries for the year 2010-11. And during his IIM days, he was the president of Student Council and was also the winner of Lion of IIM Lucknow Award. Robert, we are happy to have you with us on this occasion. On behalf of IEDC SB College, I welcome you to this program.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you. Pleasure to be part of the program as well.
I would also like to welcome Dr. Philip Little Thomas, Nodal Officer of IEDC, dear teachers and students to this event. It's your presence and interaction that make an event successful. Hope all of you will enjoy a wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Shri Shah Antony, the co-founder and CEO of Synapse and Associate Vice President of Crow Farm, is our chief invitee. With pleasure, I invite him for the talk. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Linton. Thank you for inviting me to the talk. And special mention to Liji ma'am, who was also my mentor and my teacher during my undergraduate studies in SB College. So it's always a pleasure to be part of the group, and of all the institutes that I've been associated with in my life, SB College holds a very special place in my heart. And it's an absolute honor, and I'm humbled to be present here and to be given an opportunity to talk to a lot of aspiring students. So what I'll do is I'll also share the experiences, my own experiences, and my journey so far, starting all the way from my campus days and up until now, till 2021, when we decided to establish Synapse. And in this process, what I will try to do is, I'll try to tell you what I would have told myself if I were in your position, right? So 10 years back or 11 years back in 2011, I was one of you in that seat. So if someone were to come and tell me what I should be looking out for and what should be my experiences and how I should be prepared and how's the exciting journey of entrepreneurship, and at the same time there are lots of highs and lows. So what are the things I should be looking out for, and at the same time what is the journey that has unfolded so far in the journey of Synapse, right? So, and after that, I'll also open the session for questions. So, as Linshin was mentioning and as ma'am was mentioning, there will be a lot of questions, and I'm looking forward to a lot of you having a lot of questions. It's always pleasure to hear queries from aspiring students and who are there on the other side, and always looking forward to learning from your questions as well. So I'll just jump into it. I'll not waste much time. I'll try to keep it as informal as possible, because I was also one among you. It is more like interacting with one of us way back in 10 years back. So I'll try to keep it as simple and informative and informal as possible. So one of the very first thing, when it comes to entrepreneurship, so entrepreneurs are never born. So entrepreneurs are always made and always developed through different phases and phases of experiences that they experience throughout their life. So one of the important things, and I will try to take as many personal examples as possible, so that it is much more relatable to you as well, and maybe you will find it interesting as well. It's not more of self-boasting, but I'll try to take as many personal examples to the statements that I'm making, so that it is much more relatable, right? So one of the very important things when I completed my +2, I was part of the A section group. So which was supposedly they put all the good students in one section, and they expect the best result out of them. And out of my entire class, right, I was the only one who chose for a degree program, and all of them went for engineering or MBBS or a lawyer. So only three professions people chose in my class, and I was the only one who took degree program, right? So I categorically remember one of my father's friend asked him, for higher studies, and his response immediately was, "Ori karyulla." So Ori karyulla. He has chosen some biotechnology or botany. I don't know what he wants with his life. Sort of a reaction. So although my father is a very supportive figure, he has been supporting me throughout all my decisions. But at the same time, this is a very first lesson as aspiring entrepreneurs, or if you're planning to start off on your own, if you're planning to take up challenges and trying to pave a different path, right? So you can always expect people whom you are even close to or even distant people, to not understand what you are working towards. So one of the very important factor that you should keep in mind is the ability to make decisions. You have to start right now. Start making decisions on your own and take full responsibility of the decision, because it is a possibility that others might not believe or completely agree with the decision that you've taken. The onus is always on you to prove that the decision that you took at that point of time was right. So this is a very first early stage mindset that you have to develop, right? The ability to face different adverse opinions against what you have chosen. So this creates a lot of doubts. And as an entrepreneur, where you are getting into a space of unknown, where you're trying to create a business and a company out of nothing, this factor comes into a lot of picture, where you interact with 20 people and 18 might say, we don't see things happening. I don't know whether it's going to work out. So you should not get into the area of self-doubt. At the same time, you should be also open to feedback. So this is one of the most interesting things happen. So I just try to place it in a very jovial setting, where I was also, this is one of my personal experiences. And going on, So when after that I decided, I was there in SB College for three years, and then I decided to pursue my MBA because I wanted to start off and I wanted to make it big at the same time. So I decided I'll target only IIMs and pursue, and following that decision was to sign up for coaching. So I figured out this institute in Bangalore, which is Ascent Education, which was an IIM alumni venture. And I went there. And the first thing, the first class was logical reasoning, right? So the very first session was logical reasoning. There were 25 questions in that sheet. And the 25, they handed over the sheet. There were almost 20 students in the class from different places. And the question sheet was handed over to all of us. And I was the only person in that entire class who couldn't solve a single problem. So this is another important factor, right? So when you choose, when you make a decision and when you decide to go for something, especially in the field of business and in the field of entrepreneurship, when you make a decision, you might not be the expert in that domain. You might not know so many things in that domain, but at the same time, you should have the mindset to constantly work upon it and gather knowledge which will enable you to succeed in that particular segment. So 6 months down the line, I was teaching logical reasoning for Ascent Education and critical reasoning for GMAT. So 4 months down the line, they invited me to be one of their lecturers in Ascent Education. So what I did was I went back on the same day and went to the nearest bookstore, which was a landmark at that time. And I took all the logical reasoning book out of the shelf, whatever I could find on that day. And I started solving every single problem. So the thing is, you will not get it right at the first time. And you will definitely almost every time will not get it right at the first time. But one of the key important things that you should keep in mind and start cultivating, and something that you should start cultivating, is to learn, to ability and have the mindset to constantly learn and to gather more knowledge for the aim that you have in mind. So this is one of the things that you should definitely keep in mind. And one of the things also that matters, Professor J.G. Ray, who was at that time professor in the botany department, who is currently, I think, is an MG University in Department of Biosciences. So ma'am was mentioning that I was president of Nature Club. So he was heading Nature Club at that given point of time. And he told me at that time that you should be the president this year. And I told him, sir, I don't think I will be able to execute it properly. So the one of the things that he said at that given point of time, which holds true still, and it is very relevant for all of you, what I believe is very relevant for all of you, is he said, make as many mistakes as possible in your early days. Like when you are in college, make as many mistakes as possible, get into as many things as possible, which will make you uncomfortable, and make mistakes. You don't have to necessarily be the best in what you do, but at the same time, you can always make mistakes. And this is a time when you make a mistake, mistakes have low impact on your life, right? So what happens is, when you make enough number of mistakes, what it will also enable you is to not repeat that mistake in the future. And the earlier you start making mistakes, the better your understanding of what might work and might not work in a professional and on a personal settings as well. So this is one thing which Professor J.G. Ray mentioned at that given point of time, which I found to be really helpful, which has helped me a lot, because in my college days, that also enabled me to try out different things, make as many number of mistakes. You should not be scared of failing, for sure, because failing is one of the guaranteed scenarios. Succeeding is a if scenario, but exposing yourself to failure is a guaranteed scenario. You give so more you fail, the more you learn, and the more your chances are of succeeding in the future, because you don't make the same mistake twice or thrice, right? So that is also one of the things that you should definitely keep in mind, that during this stage, if I were to give advice to you, because you are in your campus, you're trying out different things, you're in your idea stage where the ideas are the maximum, right? But at the same time, you're also the most skeptical. When I was in campus, I was also skeptical of doing things, whether I should try it out or not try it out. So when you are always in doubt, just try it out. It might happen that you succeed, it might happen that you fail. Either ways, it's a learning for you, and it always helps you be better and bring out the better version of yourself in the future. So that is one of the things that during my journey has enabled me and helped me succeed. Second, the third thing is, when you try out different things, right? When you set goals or when you set a goal for yourself, do not think of your limitations first. So we have a constraint first, we think of something, then the next thing we think of the limitations that will prohibit us from reaching that goal. So one of the things that as budding entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs and as aspiring leaders of the future, you should keep in mind is not to have that barrier in your mind. One of the examples, if I have to take from my personal life, I think currently the principal Jobs are under see, Robert, you can think of it in two different ways, right? One is you can think of this as an award or as an achievement, or second is if you think of it as a responsibility, right? So, and that also stuck with me, and it has been what, 11 years since I graduated, but the words are still stuck with me because when you think of the same thing in two different viewpoints, right? It makes a lot of difference. So, sir, one of the partners, you should think of it as a responsibility that you have been entrusted upon. So, it is the onus is on you to represent the campus wherever you go, represent what SB stands for, and also ensure that you live up to the standards as well as take it further. So, whatever achievements or whatever victories or smaller things that you win in life, take it up as responsibilities to deliver something better, make yourself better out of it, and keep continuing in that path. And that path will not be necessarily very easy and smooth, but at the same time, the confidence that I said, that the mentors show in you and people who believe in you shows, it goes a long way. Still now, even when I invite you the Lijimisana to this particular talk series, right? And whatever Lijimis ask, I will never be in a position to say no to, because she has been the one who has supported me. And at the same time, my circling back to the point that mentors and exposing yourself to the right mentors helps you a lot in achieving your journey, right? So almost half an hour into our session, since our session started 2:30, we started, it's already 3 o'clock. So what I'll do is a professional journey view there, and at the same time I'll also share what has been the interesting journey that has happened with Synapse, right? So getting onto the entrepreneurial side of it, one thing is I started off as a management trainee. Ascent Education was my first professional experience. I joined there as a student for CAT, and 4 months down the line, I joined their core team, and I was handling the CAT product for them. I was also teaching number theory, critical reasoning and logical reasoning, and I was there for 8 months. So one of the things that that really exposes you early on to what might happen in running a company is getting yourself exposed to challenges and roles and responsibilities, right? So one of the things that you can also try is to expose yourself to internships. Unpaid internships, paid internships. These are things which will expose you early on. It can be part-time also. It can be just 1 week project or a small project. There are a lot of projects out there, right? You can start reaching out, start exploring. If you're interested in that segment, start exploring, start reaching out, start doing smaller projects so that you are exposed to bigger set of people. So one of the things that really worked out for me was I was exposed to those people who are already IIM alumni and who has started off their own business at that given point of time, right? So they were able to give me a lot of insights on how to structure your thoughts. What are the things that we look at, how a business should be planned, what are the things that we have to look at. A lot of things came from there. And post my MBA days, I joined Kraft Heinz company as a management trainee. Kraft Heinz is the world's third largest food company. So I joined there as a management trainee. I handled their area. I was the area manager in the initial days in South Tamil Nadu. Then as a regional key account sales manager in South, then followed by Metro City in Mumbai. Then I joined Johnson and Johnson. I joined as a zonal manager. I was taking care of Delhi division. Then I got promoted as a national key account manager, where I was handling almost 10 crores of business for them. So things were going really well for me. All my stints were very good. I had success in all my stints. I was getting promoted, but at the same time, why I started off with the journey of pursuing MBA was to start off on my own, right? So that is something I decided when I was 22 or 21. And then I decided, okay, now enough time has been spent and now I have to get into entrepreneurship, right? I have to start off on my own. So one of the things that you have to also keep in mind is it's never too late. ഇപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് ഇരുന്ന് തോന്നും ഓക്കെ ഗ്രാജുവേഷൻ കഴിഞ്ഞ ഉടനെ തുടങ്ങിയില്ലെങ്കിൽ ശരിയാവില്ല. I need as much time as possible. I will keep my foot and then I'll try to go forward. Or you will think, 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, I've already secured a job. Now it's too late. How will I give up my salary? How will I give up my secured things? So that then later on down the line, you might get married. Then you will think, okay, I have a lot of responsibilities. Now, how will I take that plunge forward? How will I take that risk, right? So the thing is, it's never too late to chase your dreams, right? So always keep your feet on the present and always plan for the future. So when I turned 30, right, that's when I decided, okay, any time for the next decade project. So before I started, right, so one of the things when we decided that, okay, let me start up, even though I decided to start up, I never had startup exposure before. Now, my initial first company was Ascent Education. It never had it was in the education space. It was early stage startup, but not the real technology based startups, right? So I wanted to get myself exposed in the technology segment startup. So what I decided was I quit my job in Johnson and Johnson. I landed a job as Associate Vice President Sales, which was heading the sales division for an early stage startup because I wanted to know how fundraising worked. Couple of objectives I had in mind. I wanted to learn how fundraising worked, how an early stage organization is structured. Third, what are the different functions? And fourth, what is the role of technology in scaling up startups, right? So all the companies that I worked earlier on, Johnson and Johnson and other companies, those were all multinational companies. Avadellum set processes aanu. You are in your comfort zone. You don't have to stretch yourself. A lot of things happen on their own. Kore aalkarundu, ishtam pole aalkarundu. So in a startup, the world changes, right? There are very few people. A lot of things has to get done, and things move at a much faster pace. And there is a big component of technology that comes in, and that brings in a lot of leverage. So that's when I joined Crowfarm to learn how early stage startup works, right? So again, coming back to the point that I mentioned earlier, it's not necessary that you know everything upfront. Even though I spent almost 5 years in the industry in core business development, I was still not. I had the understanding that I have to get the experience in the startup world, right? So coming back to the point, always ensure that before you. Entrepreneurs by default are risk takers, right? There is a high risk associated with entrepreneurship. So that is why a lot of people stay away from entrepreneurship as well, right? But at the same time, this risk can be mitigated to a large extent once you make an informed decision. So there is a component of making an informed decision, right? So this is the differentiator that can bring a lot of change in how you approach a problem and how you start off when you start off on your own. It is one thing to go completely by guts. The second thing is to have an informed take on decisions, right? So I quit my job in J&J and I joined Crowfarm. It was in the very early stage. They were in the growth phase. So I was given the charge of one division. So the first thing I did was I shut down that division and set up 3 different verticals. So one division is split into 3 divisions. We ensured that processes are set up in place. And that's when I started learning how different teams engage, especially in a very early stage startup. Crowfarm was still 150 employee odd company. So that was fairly decent enough scale, right? It was in the early stage, but it was not too early. At the same time, we had multiple people coming in. We had a function. So I had a very in-depth view because I was part of the core team. I had a very in-depth view of how a startup functioned early on. So this is where aspiring entrepreneurs and aspiring leaders among yourselves can take cues from others. So you can, that's why I said, start exploring, start talking to people within the industry that you are interested in. At the same time, also start doing free work if required. If required, you do free internships, you take up projects, you take side projects, start interacting with people, start exploring and telling your idea out loud so that people get interested, and you'll be surprised how many people will be willing to help you. Out of 10 people you will approach, 5 people might not be interested, but at the same time, 5 will always be interested in helping you out, right? So always reach out to people to gain more knowledge than what you already have at your disposal. So that is another thing that happened. So Angane Crowfarm joined. I was there for 8 months. So during that period, we raised almost $2 million. And before leaving, we were on the verge of raising $10 million for Series A. So that is when I decided that I have to take a jump. Because one of the things also that you have to keep in mind is not all big organizations and big companies cannot be built on your own. Or a single person cannot build a big company or a big organization. It's always a combination of people coming together, and you have to bring together people who will complement, who believes in the idea and also are willing to work towards idea. So I quit my job first. And 3 months down the line, my co-founder also quit his job. So for the first, we were ready to establish the company and we were ready to go with the business. And that's when COVID second wave struck. So everything shut down. So even our company registration process went for a toss because our samayatha GST registration patla, everything was shut down. We didn't have physical spaces. So one of the things is registered office. So at that time, we didn't have registered office because none of the offices were functioning. And we couldn't figure out where exactly we will position our office, right? Virtual office were now. So our first registered office was my own house. And സ്വന്തം വീട്ടിന്റെ മുകളിലത്തെ ഫ്ലോറാണ് ഞാൻ രജിസ്റ്റർ ചെയ്തത് as our company's first registered office. So because it was part of, we were doing it in the middle of COVID, right? So when you're faced with challenges, you also have to get into a solution mentality. So one of the things that you should start cultivating early on is that when you're faced with a problem, rather than taking a step back, you should always think about, okay, the problem എന്തായാലും വരും, അതിൽ നിന്ന് നമുക്ക് ഓടി ഒളിക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. So how do we solve this problem and how do we take things forward, right? പിന്നെ വന്ന ചാലഞ്ച് എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ we took a specific industry which was completely ignored. So Synapse, Liji ma'am already gave a small introduction of what Synapse is trying to achieve, right? So Synapse is trying to be India's first most comprehensive education loan platform. Why we are specifically focused on education loans is because this is one of the segment that is least catered by the finance industry. If you take finance, UPI and Paytm has come into picture. Everything is driven by QR code. Credit is available instantly. You can avail credit cards. You have neo banking solutions for teenagers. You have neo banking solutions for savings platform. But at the same time, something as critical. So education falls under the priority sector lending, right? Education, agriculture, all these falls under the priority sector for banking industry. But at the same time, banking industry is least oriented towards this segment and least inclined towards developing a solution. So we found the problem to be big enough, but the solution is not out there. So in India, there is no, it really was a surprise for us that there was no one playing in the industry. When we soon realized because it's a tough industry to work in. Working with banks, convincing them to invest in a product which is the least preferred product for them and to develop a portfolio around it is a very difficult task, right? So one of the next set of challenges that we faced was a remote scenario. How do we do it? Because none of the banks, we could travel. There were travel restrictions in place. We could not travel to different places. And at the same time, we could also not do, we couldn't go on a face-to-face meeting format, right? So at the same time, that is one challenge that came up, new challenge that came up. How do we set this up on a remote scenario? So that was the next challenge that we faced. Then we convinced one of the lead nationalized private banks, which is ICICI, to come on board our platform, and followed by Axis Bank. A lot of banks followed after that. So now we have almost eight service partners, which is on the supply side of it, across different segments, right? That was our next challenge. The third one was how do we raise funds, right? So one of the things also that everyone thinks is a definite thing was startup successful avanangi, the only way is to raise funds, right? That is a very wrong thinking because funds